morning.
Charles, front right here.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, not your province that you hope to be fighting in, but Canada nonetheless. You missed the last fight card on the return. So how's camp been? How are the emotions now that you're gonna, you're fighting in Canada again?
I'm happy to fight in Canada for the first time ever since I've been in the UFC. I think I'm the guy with the most fight right now, the Canadian with the most fight. So yeah, first time in Canada. It's a good thing. I like it. Good pressure, and I've been at the event in Vancouver, and Canadian crowd cheering a Canadian. I think there's nothing like it. I've saw many events of UFC, but Canadian crowd is something else. So I'm very happy to be able to experience that.
So when you were at that Vancouver card, I'm sure you talked to the UFC when you were there. It's like the next time you guys come, I don't care who I'm fighting, I want to fight on that card.
Yes, for sure. I'm trying to get proper matchups in order to develop it and get closer to the top 15 and everything. But now the cards align properly for me to be on the Toronto card. So here we are.
And obviously, you're fighting Sean Woodson. What did you think when his name came across your desk?
Didn't know much. I knew one time he commented on one of my pictures on Instagram. He said, "Let's fight." I said, "Sure, one day, pumpkin," or something like that. And here we are. So I knew the guy. I'm very happy to fight him because he's a striker, a good boxer, and it's also about his frame. It's fun that martial art you can prove that you can fight different frames, and you have a weird one, difficult one to apply proper techniques against because of the reach advantage. So very interesting fight. I was very happy that his name popped in, and maybe not many people knows him right now, but he's still 5-1 in UFC. It's a very good record, and there was this little thing with Saldana. But yeah, good fighter. I watched most of his fight a lot, and it's a very interesting frame.
You said he has good boxing, but he's on record saying that he might have the best boxing in the UFC. So since I'm sure you've gone back and watched some of his fights, how do you rate his boxing? Is it some of the best you've seen in the UFC?
No, because what he does it good. He's a very linear guy, but there's some very big holes in his boxing ability, and his frame is good. And sometimes you watch tapes and you're like, oh, he's making mistakes here and there. But once you fight it, maybe it's going to be different. So I need to be very careful with that, not to be like, oh, I saw that he makes those kind of mistakes and I can capitalize on them. But they're not mistakes that are easy to capitalize on unless you work really hard on it. So yeah, interesting. But no, unfortunately, I would give that to probably Max Holloway.
And then the last one for me, he's also known to kind of showboat in there too. Like when opponents like miss on strikes, he'll like kind of look and do stuff like that. So does that excite you too, that you're also going to be fighting a showman in there, not just a high level strike?
Yes, of course he likes to do mimics, and he likes to put you like asleep with his kind of weird way of doing things. It's part of martial art. He's setting up traps. He wants you to overcommit and clip you. So it's my duty to not fall into those baiting tactics that he puts in.
Charles, I'm just looking at your Twitter. Do you run your own Twitter?
Yes.
So there's a couple of quotes I wanted to run past you. Maybe you could explain them. On December 18th, you said, "The dildo of consequences rarely comes with lube." I'm curious, what's the meaning behind that one?
That, yeah, sometimes consequences are painful, and when you do the wrong choice. And yeah, lube is important, kids.
And then for this fight, I'm at a disadvantage because of the reach. I will use the same strategy I use with my stepsister: penetrate and dominate. That philosophy comes from where?
It's important to take chances in life. I should have phrased it that way. No, I'm just having fun with Twitter. And yeah, I'm having fun. It's a fun road. I say stupid stuff. And I'm not that related. Like, we have the same father, but we have a different mother. So we're not that close.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I have to say, it's one of the most underrated Twitters in the business.
Thank you.
Hey, Charles?
Where to?
Guess I'll have to do
Yes, sir.
Oh, maybe I do. Okay, there we go. Did you bring anyone in specifically for Sean's build? Like he's going to have a reach advantage, a little bit taller. Who did you get to work with for this camp?
Nobody that is properly known. We have very good strikers. I think the kickboxing in Quebec is growing a lot. So it was mainly kickboxers. And unfortunately, it's very hard to replicate someone like Sean Woodson. And it's going to be very hard for him to replicate someone like me as well. So it's something when say, oh, I'm trying to mimic this fighter, so I brought in this guy. It's very hard. even though we don't take into consideration his build, it's very hard to replicate someone. And so, yeah, I had tall strikers with me, but I don't think they're on the level of Sean, unfortunately. But it was more about me applying the tactics I'm going to use more than trying to mimic Sean that much.
It's been a while since the UFC's been to Montreal. I'm sure you'd love to fight there. Is that something you or your manager has talked to the UFC about? Like, hey, when are we going to get our card?
Unfortunately, Canada, especially Montreal, is very hooked on hockey. We're not that popular, and we had George who set up the bar very high. And unfortunately, media like me, Barrio, who are from Quebec, and Johan, I don't think we would be able to fill in the shoes of George as it is right now. And because it's a big arena, the Bell Center is a very big arena. It would be hard. I'm being completely transparent here. It would be hard to fill it. So if they would come to Montreal, please put a good card for UFC fan, not only Canadian Montreal fans. So yeah, if they come back, I would love to be on the card, of course, but put some UFC attraction on it.
Where does a win over Sean Woodson, especially a finish, sort of put you in the grand scheme of things? I believe this would be your third win in a row, something I know I'm sure you've thought of. You haven't got that yet in the UFC, 3 straight wins.
Yes, it's going to be the first time. Plus, I'm going to be heading towards the end of this contract. So financially, it's a good advantage to have to talk when you're on the 3-fight winning streak. So yeah, victory is very important, and it puts me up there for probably the me, I like watching, let's say, Diego Lopez, and there's the Brazilian guy who took off his short, Joao Anderson. So, yeah, I see these guys because there's a couple of us who are near the top 15. And, yeah, there's a lot of names who are interesting after a victory. But first, let's handle business this weekend.
And just last one for me, a little bit bummed. Your brother, I know, was supposed to fight on Unified the day before. Kind of an interesting fight because you fought TJ Laramie,
yes,
Tony's brother. How's Lewis doing, and how soon can we see him in the UFC? It seems like he's always been on the cusp.
Yes, unfortunately, he had a knee injury. The rotule came out of his knee, so now he will need to have a surgical procedure in order to build proper strength. And yeah, we'll see where that brings him. I have high hopes for him, and it's hard. It's hard to get into the UFC. The level is climbing. It's hard also. Like, it must be hard mentally for him because it was like, oh, Dana White looking for a fight, and the Laramie brothers, the Jourdain brothers. Plus, they had one crazy fight at TKO 39. Louis and Laramie already fought, which was a crazy event. So yeah, it's a bummer, but life, the dildo of consequences, rarely comes in with lube. Let's put it that way.
Hey, Charles, right here.
Yes, sir.
I won't ask you for any specific quotes from Twitter, but since you have been having fun with it, have you noticed reaction from fans? Are they engaging more?
Yes, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. I like this quote. I would find a way to make it stupid, but it's true. People, I think sometimes you take it a little bit too much serious. I'm enjoying it, and I see that fans are like. They post like those GIF, they're called, and they're like, what is wrong with this guy? Or he has too much concussion. I might. So it's fun. More interaction.
That's good to hear. And, you mentioned being the longest tenured or most Canadian fighter with the most fights. That was John McDessie, who spent 13 years in the UFC. When you look at that and you're 28, do you go, man, I'd love to be here in 10 years? Or do you think, boy, I hope I'm not?
I'll see. I'll take it one step at a time. Because sometimes when you take a career too far, there might be some consequences physically and mentally that can come with it. So yeah, my Twitter would get more horrible with more concussion. So I might stop before that.
And just on that kind of thread, I mean, obviously the title is a goal for every fighter, but do you have other milestones that you want to hit in your career?
No, I'm taking one step at a time. When I'm planning too much ahead, I tend to lose my focus a bit. So I'm a day-to-day guy.
All right, best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Back here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So last time the UFC was in Canada, you did an interview where you said that you had been too immature in your fights up till that point.
Yes.
That you had been in too many close decisions. So how have you matured since then?
It's to understand there's 5 minutes in a round, and if you're ahead, you don't need to do that spinning heel kick that might get you down. So that's what I was talking about, the immaturity. There's some risk that you can take when there's an opportunity for it, but those opportunity comes, don't try to chase them too much. So that's what I meant by being an immature fighter. And now I know, like against Kron, I was looking at the clock. Okay, I'm in his guard. Did he throw more punches than me? I'm more conscious about the fact that, because there's a lot of fighters, let's say in the top 15, they're not only good at fighting, they're good at winning. So I need to be good at winning if I want to reach that level. There's some guys who knows what they're doing, and once they know they have 2 rounds in the book, they fight on the defensive for the last round, everything. So I need to be taking those things into consideration now.
And one more thing, you also said that while strategy is important, your thirst for blood is most important. So is that something you can train?
I was fortunately born with it. I was never a very skilled fighter, but I had balls when I was younger. Let's say in TKO, I became double champ, and I never had strategy during a fight. It's just, oh, you're fighting this guy. What's your strategy? I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna punch him, you know. So I never had that much strategy. But now building up with time, aging, I see that it's very important, to apply not only strategy, but I see that you can see it. There's a lot of guys who are very good strategists, and when it comes to fighting, but they don't have like that extra bloodthirst. And unfortunately, when they reach that level where you need to mix the two, it doesn't go well for them. So yeah, I think I'm blessed to have this thirst for blood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, Neil Davidson from the Canadian Press. Je vais essayer une question en français
si je peux,
pour votre client à Québec. Est-ce que vous pouvez parler un peu au sujet de votre lutte samedi? Vous êtes confident de la résultat?
You want me to answer in French? Okay, perfect. Oui, je suis très confiant au niveau de ma lutte. Sean Woodson est pas très habile en termes d'amener au sol. Sa lutte ne m'impressionne pas. Ça reste un combat d'MMA, mais je dois être conscient qu'il peut m'amener au sol aussi. Mais c'est pas la plus grosse menace que Sean Woodson m'apporte. Yes, sir.
I'll go with another question in French if people don't mind. Salut Charles, ça va bien?
Ça va bien, toi?
Oui. Tu parlais un peu de pas de rester trop longtemps tantôt. J'aimerais juste te ramener à Oli Mercier qui a décidé d'arrêter probablement au bon moment dans son cas. Est-ce que tu prends des notes de ce qu'il a fait, des décisions qu'il prend par rapport à ça?
Oli a gagné 2 fois PFL, ce qui est vraiment impressionnant. C'est 2 millions de dollars, c'est 8 combats en 2 années. Je lui lève mon chapeau. Oli a une façon de combattre qui n'est pas la mienne. J'ai une façon de combattre qui est beaucoup plus dangereuse. Je suis beaucoup plus à risque de manger des coups parce que je ne suis pas un aussi bon tacticien que lui. On va mettre ça comme ça. Je suis plus dans le spectacle, dans le sang. Donc, on est très différents. Donc, c'est sûr que nos parcours vont être encore une fois, très différents. Yes, sir.
Charles, over here. You said you don't like to look ahead, which makes a lot of sense. But this is entering, I think, your 5th year in the UFC. Have you had a chance to look back at all, and how would you sort of describe your run so far with the company?
A courageous run, a lot of bad decisions, which made me a better fighter, a better man overall. Like I have a 6-5 record, like off the chart. It's not appealing to see that, but you can see that I'm growing every fight, so it's good. I arrived in the UFC fairly young, 23, and I was already I had balls. Like fighting my second fight in Korea against Duo Choi was like this hard hitter, and I took it. And it was the first time in my life I got hit that hard, got knocked down, got back up, knock him down. Then we exchanged blows. I finally knocked him out. So I'm very happy about most of the choices I made. And all the bad things that happened to me made me stronger mentally and physically. So I'm grateful for this. It's one hell of a ride. Let's put it that way.
I know we just mixed up Sean Woodson and Sean Strickland for a second. Do you have a pick for the main event between Strickland and Duplessis? How do you break that one down?
Duplessis hits hard, and Strickland is like this cardio machine. And I rarely saw someone as genuine and has such a good energy as Strickland. We signed poster yesterday. When he talks with you, he looks at you in the eye. It's very impressive character, and he it feels like he doesn't have much pressure on his back, and when you find that flow state, you perform to the best of your ability. So I think I'm going with Strickland 2024.
One in the back over here, Charles. So Georges St. Pierre, he did an interview this week, and he said that fighting in Canada, he expects that to give you an extra edge and a push. Do you expect to have an extra edge?
Yes, but I need to make sure that the fans' thirst for blood doesn't get mixed between mine. I need to stay very strategic with Sean, because I think one of his most dangerous attacks is the knee down the middle, and I'm a pressure fighter, so I need to be very careful I don't lose my composure because you guys are screaming so much. So I need to be careful with that. That's it. Good. Thank you very much.